It's 5:45 p.m., which means it's time for another edition of BCTV's weekly media roundup. I'm tonight's host, Roland Boyden. The show, 5:45 Live. Now on deck for this rainy Friday edition of 5:45 Live, we're going to break it all down on the latest headlines as Vernon's plans to disband their police department withstand a second round of town meeting deliberations. Vermont makes national and international headlines as yesterday the governor put the stamp of approval on the nation-leading GMO labeling laws that has everyone around here so excited. And the pothole wasteland known as Western Ave finally gets some relief from the state. Plus, we're going to get Bernie's take on the Whitehouse Global Climate Change Report. What does it say? Does it say enough? We'll get you all the details there as well. And all the calendar weather additions that we've come to know and love here on 5:45 Live. We'll throw those in for you as well. Plus, the latest I-91 bridge update and much more. So if you've got the time and, of course, the attention span, stick with us right here on 5:45 Live.
You talk to the tourist industry, you talk to the ski and snowboard industry, they are worried about the lack of snow. You talk to the maple sugar industry, they are very worried about what climate change will mean to the great maple syrup that I am addicted to, I must tell you, in the state of Vermont.
Welcome back to this May 9th, 2014 edition of 5:45 Live. I'm tonight's host, Roland Boyden. I'll be taking you through the next 15 minutes into the regularly scheduled 6 o'clock world news. Now, that's footage of U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders discussing this week's White House report on global climate change, an 840-page document the Washington Post described as apocalyptic, with the report sporting a list of dire predictions should the U.S. fail to fully confront global climate change. While the report's focus on problems in the present and not future tense has garnered the approval of climate reform advocates, the positive portrayal of domestic natural gas production has drawn criticism from the left. Well, right-wing leaders on the national stage have opted to dismiss the report altogether, with Texas House Rep. Lamar Smith calling it, quote, a political document intended to frighten the American people. Now, we're going to take a step back here and talk local headlines, and for that, we'll launch in and start in Vernon and head into our newsroom, which is really just me with a little frame around the image so that we can put up the over-the-shoulder graphics. But let's launch in here. As this week, we start the headlines in Vernon, where town residents gathered once more to reconsider the decision to disband their local police department in favor of occasional services from the Windham County Sheriff's Department, a decision that this Monday withstood another round of heated debate as residents gathered at the Vernon Elementary School to discuss the merits of savings versus security as the town rolls into an uncertain future, most notably after Vermont Yankee closes.
So we offer different types of contracts, depending on what the town wants or a community wants. Full services, we provide everything. We could provide everything from 120 to 168 hours a week. 168 hours means we put someone on the road 24 hours a day. Next. Some of the towns that we have a resident deputy. It is a town, for example, like Putney. They contract for 40 hours a week. The deputy lives in town. That's what we encourage. Same now as in Westminster and Stratton.
That Vernon special town meeting, you can watch it. It's all up already on BrattleBoroTV.org to stream at your leisure in its entirety. It's also part of a video-on-demand archive library, so you can follow along with all the Vernon town meeting news from this past March and even into previous years, all there on BrattleBoroTV.org. It's also showing this week on BCTV Channel 10. All right, we'll move on now in the stories and talk GMOs as Vermont made national history yesterday with the governor signing into law the first GMO labeling laws the country has seen. For that, we sent hardworking BCTV intern Adam Hinckley north to the statehouse steps, where he was able to do a special live broadcast via Google Hangout using his iPhone. So we had some shaky reception at the beginning, but we're able to stabilize it for part of the governor's speech and get a special report that was recorded and released. We'll take a flashback now to yesterday's Google Hangout broadcast. Adam, take it away.
Thanks, Roland. Well, I'm standing here on the State House steps here in Montpelier, where in just a few minutes, Governor Shumlin is slated to officially sign into law the first GMO labeling law in the nation. This is a piece of legislation that received wide support in both the Senate and House in spite of some serious resistance from food manufacturers, especially on the national level. Now, today marks a real cause for celebration for advocates of GMO labeling. Now, not only does this bill mandate that any food products that contain any amount of genetically modified organisms has to be labeled as such, but it goes a step farther and actually makes it illegal to label foods with GMOs as either natural or all natural. A critical distinction lawmakers here in Vermont hope will take hold in other states around the nation as this movement goes forward. Now, the law won't go into effect until July 2016, but already the state's Attorney General says he's expecting some lawsuits.
I am so honored to be here with the bravest citizens of the bravest state to launch a very simple bill that will bring fairness to the people of the great state of Vermont. Yeah. We in this state today will sign the first bill in America, joining 60 other countries, where Vermonters will have the right to know what's in their food.
Okay, we're going to move on now and talk Entergy Vermont Yankee. That's right, it's been a few weeks since the Louisiana-based energy companies made it into the 545 Live headlines, but Entergy is in the news once more. We've been following negotiations between the state and Vermont Yankee owners Entergy Nuclear over a post-plant closing settlement. And this week, state officials announced that the Louisiana-based energy giant has already handed over $5.3 million in agreement funds earmarked for clean energy development. Now, that's development the state is looking for public input on when it comes to how to proceed with the funds, prompting an open forum on the subject that's scheduled for this coming Wednesday at the high school's multi-purpose room at BUHS here in Brattleboro, with the Wyndham Regional Commission urging residents to turn out and advocate for careful and deliberate use of the funds. Now, the forum hosted earlier this year in conjunction with Brattleboro's Development Credit Corporation, along with members of the group SEVEDS, or the Southeastern Vermont Economic Development Strategies Group, members of the Regional Commission outlined the critical importance of handling this one-time bump in revenue generated from the agreement.
The resources that the state has directed in the past to the closing of Vermont Yankee certainly need to be directed to helping the communities around Windham County.
We're grateful that the committees are here and we were able to present them our strategies and our work to help rebuild the Windham County economy, which will help Vernon, Brattleboro, and all the communities in the region.
And
Next up, it's been unprecedented in recent weeks to make it this far into a 545 Live broadcast without talking about the Brattleboro Select Board as the overturned FY14 budget and looming decisions over police fire upgrade bonds continue. It's an intense round of drama that interim town manager Patrick Moreland has found on his plate for a good bit longer than anticipated, as the search for a new head of municipal operations in town stalled out the last time around, forcing the Select Board and appointed committee to go back to the figurative drawing board. But this week, Select Board Chair David Gardenstein announced at the board's regular meeting that they would be moving ahead with a second round of interviews with an all-new set of candidates for the position.
The board met in executive session yesterday for an hour, went through those 43 applications, and we chose 7 people who are going to be first round interviewees.
The board appointed late last summer a committee to oversee the search for a new town manager after longtime manager Barb Sondag announced she would be departing. That was effective last July, with then Assistant Town Manager Patrick Moreland accepting the interim position only, without applying to take the role on full-time. And while the committee did narrow down the then top applicants to 2 final choices, the board announced this past November that failure to reach an agreement over either of the 2 remaining candidates had forced them to start the application process over. For more on that story, we'll take a 545 Live rewind in time to that very meeting and announcement from this past November. Let's take a look.
What I have to report here tonight is that that search ultimately was unsuccessful, and that we have not reached an agreement with either of those finalist candidates for them to come on as town manager.
All right, we'll move on and get you all the details on the I-91 bridge project construction in a moment, including where the closings on Upper Dummerston Road hit and when they are going to end. But first, we're going to break down some construction news on another front that may interest folks. As our latest story has some news for Western Ave commuters. We'll have noted a round of DPW work to cover and patch some of the most impassable sections of pothole-ridden roadway. But a full round of repaving relief may be on the way, as this week the state announced $125,000 in funding to add 1.5 inches of new pavement from Exit 2 on Western Ave through Edward Heights, just past the Meadowbrook Road junction on Western Ave in West Brattleboro, where the road officially turns to State Highway. Now, this is a stretch of road that made headlines in the Reformer this winter after extreme potholes resulted in more than 20 flat tires in a 2-week span, forcing the town to publicly state that they would not be offering any compensation to commuters facing bills as a result of the potholes. Now, this state money comes on the back of a statewide initiative announced this week, with the governor stating, quote, "Potholes beware." Today we launched Fast Fix 14, the largest pavement treatment program in Vermont's history, to repair a record 145 miles of Vermont State Highway. Now, the paving comes out of state funds, but the governor did also announce that a hefty dose of federal funding would be covering the tab on the repaving of an additional 230 miles of roadway in Vermont. All right, now as promised, time to check in with the latest from the I-91 bridge construction project, as workers turned their attention this week to the smaller sections of the bridge that span the interstate's crossing of Upper Dummerston Road, forcing overnight closures on the connecting road, though the real detours for area residents currently relying on Upper Dummerston Road won't start until Monday, when a 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. road closing goes into effect. Officials expect the road to reopen full-time starting Wednesday night, that's May 14th at 8 p.m., and officials don't anticipate any further closings to that section of road for the remainder of the bridge construction project. Now, our latest story is going to take us to Townsend as we continue to track cell phone drama from all around the region. For that, back into the story as we go here, we'll talk about the cell phone tower in Townsend as the national broadband giant AT&T continues to tackle cell phone coverage woes up and down the West River Valley. Now, they'll get to try their luck with the residents of Townsend, who debated the news of a new proposal in their own municipality for a 150-foot new tower. Now, this proposal from AT&T has already been met with intense resistance from area residents in the towns of Newfane and Putney, where aesthetic concerns over the sizes of the respective towers proposed for those towns and the placement of the towers has prompted a series of heated public forums and special meetings in both the regions, despite the municipality's limited authority over the fate of the towers in each case. A fate that's determined at the statewide level by the Public Service Board, leaving the town's planning, DRB, and select boards to voice the concerns of their constituents in an advisory capacity only. Now, at this week's Townsend Select Board meeting, the seeds of controversy may have already been sown, but the need for proper cell phone coverage may be playing a stronger role than in local tower battles past.
The tower is a pine tree tower. There will be a comment period for that, but they would like to know any concerns that are here right now before it goes to Public Service Board for permitting. Our town plan does encourage. I will say that I, for one, have been active in trying to get some sort of cell service in this town for the last 6 years. So this is something that is coming to fruition.
We put Adam Hinckley on double duty in Montpelier yesterday to record from the Statehouse steps a proper introduction to the calendar. Take it away, Adam.
Well, Roland, thanks for sending me all the way up here just to send it back to you, but time for Roland to do the weekly calendar, so over to you, Roland.
Let's start with Winston Prouty Center has got their own Taste of the Town. It's slated for SIT from 6:30 to 10:30 this Saturday, May 10th. Now that's going to be in the main World Learning International Center. That's at their 1 Kipling Road residence off Black Mountain Road in Brattleboro.
Prouty was one of the first organizations that did sort of a large event with a silent auction. I know everybody does it now, but 24 years ago we started. It's one of our biggest fundraisers.
All right, that does it for another edition of 545 Live, but we'll be back next week, 5:45 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on BCTV, Comcast, Cable Channel 8, and of course you can find this and all episodes of 545 Live to stream at your leisure in both standard and high definition at BrattleboroTV.org. In the meantime, thanks for watching.